Do you identify as sir, man? Or you could say your pronoun. I don't want to insult you.
It's all good.
Okay. Hey, take a deep breath. We're going to figure this out, all right? So what pronoun would you say?
On August 28th, 2022, at approximately 6:15 p.m., officers with the Columbus Division of Police were dispatched to the home of Columbus City Attorney Zach Klein on a call about people camping in his front yard.
I would like to request a police cruiser in Clintonville on Zach Klein's house. There are peaceful protesters there, but they've set up literally, and there goes a cruiser. They've literally set up a camp in his front yard on his personal property.
The officers arrived on scene and advised the protesters that they were trespassing on private property and were subject to arrest. After several attempts to get the protesters to leave, the officers were left with no choice but to place them under arrest. 3 individuals were arrested, 2 were slated at Jackson Pike, and 1 of them was eventually transported to a hospital. So with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned something, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hello? Is there somebody who's in charge of the tent?
Pardon?
Is there somebody who's in charge, who owns that tent? Is it yours?
It's not mine.
No? Is it one of yours? Is that your tent, sir? Is it yours? Is anybody claiming ownership of this tent?
I'm the police liaison.
Okay.
So if you want to speak to any of them or anything you want to tell them, you can talk to me.
Okay.
So the protesters are here right now because of the sweep happening on Eastbound Street.
Okay.
So there are some demands.
Okay, that's fine. So here's the thing. The property owner doesn't want them on their property, okay?
Okay.
So now there's a trespass notice. I'll talk to you because you say that you're the liaison to them. If you could tell them, they can just move right over to this piece of grass right here. That's public property, okay? But the property owner of this particular address no longer wants them on their property, all right?
Hi, they want you guys to move to the other side of the grass.
Would you like me to talk to them?
I'll go and
Okay. Can you tell them that they are subject to arrest if they don't?
It's not a request, it's an order. They have to go over there
So they're
and
saying
leave.
that it's in order,
Or they're going to be placed under arrest. for
The
criminal
property
trespass.
owner does not want them on their property.
they're saying that you will be put because they are saying that the property owner is saying that they do not want for you guys to be
On their property. You can. We have
their property.
no problem with you guys protesting, but this is currently private property that you reside on. Okay, so you have to move somewhere that's public. All right, because the property owner does not want you on their property. You are subject to arrest if you don't comply. All right, that's it. You guys can just move right over that piece of grass over there. It's public property. It's a public park, and you're legally allowed to be there until 11 p.m. Okay.
Oh, they might just need some time to start getting up and everything.
Well, they're not moving. That's the problem. So they're just completely ignoring our commands. So they're not complying. So they need to start getting up, getting their stuff, and going over to a different side, going over to the public property over there. Okay?
Start.
For everybody inside the tent, we need you guys to get up.
They'll only.
We need you guys to get up.
Everything that you're saying right now.
We need you guys to start getting up and start packing up your property.
They're supposed to be
Well,
acting as their communication.
I understand that,
I'm the
but
police liaison.
they're not listening to you. So I'm going to talk to them directly in hopes they listen to me to avoid an arrest, because we don't want to arrest them. We want them to obey the law and leave this property.
Like I said before, I'm the police liaison. So anything
Okay.
that you want to tell them, tell me, and I will tell them.
And we've already explained it to you, and they're not listening to you, is what I'm saying.
So like I said before, if there is anything that you want to tell them,
Mhm.
you can talk to me, and I will say it to them.
Okay.
So is there anything that you want to tell them right now for me to
They
tell
need
them?
to leave or they're going to be placed under arrest.
You guys have been told by the other officer that you are being told that you must go, or else you must go because you are going to be placed under arrest.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is my mic live?
It is live. Is my mic live?
It is.
Look at that.
I forgot what I
guy.
was doing today, dude. Completely. I mean, I knew that I was going to be here, but I forgot how to do it.
Yeah, I went into the thing and I was like, he didn't fucking create it.
No,
Are we
I
doing
totally.
this? Did I get confused?
No, I've been planning on it all day and telling all my friends. I forgot to do the thing. So I was going to use your Instagram post, your thumbnail as a thumbnail tonight, but I ran out of time. I was literally down here at like,
Man, you're just so busy. Busy
it,
guy.
I am busy. I had a very busy day today. How was your day today?
It was interesting. The life of a guy that stays home with a kid and makes a podcast is a odd life. A little bit of everything.
Yeah. Were you caught up in organizational type stuff, or was it more
A little
dad
bit.
mode today?
You know, really, it was a big laundry day today. Real exciting stuff.
That is
Laundry.
exciting.
Yeah.
I did some dishes today. That was part of my daily routine. Yes.
Woo! Yeah, dishes.
The problem is when it's time to eat and there's nothing to eat with, you realize you have to do some dishes. So I did my duty today and washed some dishes amongst my other duties.
I'm really proud of you.
Yeah.
Did you mow the lawn?
No, my wife mows the lawn.
Fucking embarrassing.
It's the only time she gets to work out.
Jesus. Fucking sell her down the river, huh?
How much do you think I could get for her?
I don't know, man. I mean, not to get weird. You can probably
What's
make
the-
a few bucks.
Yeah, I don't know what the going rate is. I'm gonna have to tap into that market and find out.
I think you probably track some people down.
We'll see what we can do. We do live in Ohio, which is one of the human trafficking capitals of the country, from what I'm told.
Allegedly.
Yeah, the only problem is people don't understand what human trafficking is. But regardless, we took last week off. Why did we do that?
There was a holiday.
Yeah,
There was a holiday.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
How was your
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, man?
It was good, man. I ate turkey, got drunk, and had some mashed potatoes.
I did get a handful of drunk messages from you on Thanksgiving, which is fun.
Did I really?
Yeah, and your brother.
Oh, boy. Oh yeah. Oh boy.
That was that was a real treat. And I was working that day. I put out a video about my day that day.
Thanks for sharing this, by the way.
Hey, I didn't do it for you.
I know.
Oh man. And my Thanksgiving was normal. I mean, I worked and then the following day went to the in-laws, and your in-laws probably don't do the same thing mine do, but I don't think it's completely uncommon that when I show up at the in-laws house, there's all these physically demanding tasks that need done, that it's not prior planning at all, but there's like a list of things that have to be done when I get there. So that was my Thanksgiving.
That's what you get for being fit. Just be a fat slob, and people are like, "Wow, if he gets up, he's going to have a heart attack." So we don't want.
I really am just good at sucking it in. It's all a ruse. I swear.
There's too much. I can't suck it in anymore. It's too much.
It happens. Did you get a workout in the day?
Dude, I actually worked out today.
Really?
It was weird. Yeah.
What'd you do?
I did some rows. I got on the row machine for a little bit, and
Oh,
I lifted some weights, threw some weight around, as the kids say.
nice.
It's good.
How's
Loved it.
the rowing machine treating you?
It's all right. No, I got no complaints. It's a real simple rowing machine, but I mean, it's a pretty
Yeah.
simple task. So no, I like it.
Have you kind of gotten into it, or are you still trying to figure it out?
What do you mean gotten into it?
Like, have you done any longer rows or?
No, I got to be honest, man. I bought the thing a month ago, and today was the first day I really actually used it because I told myself I actually put in my fucking calendar today all the stuff I had to get done today. Fucking row.
Hey, Travis, thank you for your service. I mean, that's why you posted that, right? Let everyone know that you're here at work. Isn't that the rule? You're not participating. No, it's all good. Yeah, I rode my bike tonight, and that's one of the reasons I was late. I got up this morning. I actually took the day off. And when I take a day off, generally speaking, it's because I want to go do some YouTube stuff. And the YouTube thing I was doing today was a project that I failed at a couple weeks ago. Well, maybe a month
You
or so.
failed?
I did. I fail
No,
frequently.
you're my hero. You've never failed a day in your life.
Yeah, I failed miserably. I lost all my data on my camera. So I went out today to try to recreate that, and it was
You're
different.
fucking out of control.
Hey, there's a celebrity in the room.
Hey,
Hey,
celebrity.
Boot Cam. We're not playing any of your videos tonight. I hope you approve of what we're going to cover, though, which I still have to pull that up. But yeah, today I went out and I spoke to some homeless people in their natural environment. And I struck out on a couple of homeless camps, and I ended up meeting one guy that I recorded a video with. It was absolutely incredible. I don't want to get too far into it, but just a very inspirational type of guy, not homeless, just a guy that I met. And then I grabbed another guy that's been on my body camera channel on multiple occasions. He's kind of a celebrity over there. Went and had I recorded like a 40-minute interview with him. Got kind of deep into some of his history and kind of where his head's at and stuff. And then I took him to lunch. So I had a busy day today, and then came home and then worked out. And I had Chinese buffet for lunch, which is not a good idea if you plan on being productive for the rest of the day.
It's never a good idea anytime ever.
No, and it was like ghetto Chinese buffet. Like not nice area Chinese buffet. The guy, though, his English was so broken that I couldn't hardly understand him. So I thought that was positive, but there was like butter in the rice. I could taste it. And that just kind of set the tone for the whole meal. But it's all right.
I'm not a rice expert, so I wouldn't know if you should have butter in it or not. Is that something you're not supposed to have?
I think that they put butter in the rice because it's on the buffet and they didn't want to like stick together. So they put some butter in there. And Americans are fat and disgusting. So if you put butter in things, they'll think it's better. Yeah. So if you want to put
address for this place.
Oh Lord. Yeah, but it was interesting. It was busy. I mean, I didn't get out of the shower until 7:20 tonight. I still had to have dinner and then come down. That's why I didn't get everything set up. It's
by the way, it's not a sex dungeon because you have to have sex, and I'm a virgin, so it's just a dungeon.
Where'd your kids come from?
The stork? Isn't that where your kids came from?
Yeah. And that's why none of them look alike. Sorry, I've still got this cough that I've had for like 3 weeks now.
I recorded a podcast on Monday, and I sent you a message. I was like, dude, I lost my voice. I was worried about it. But
oh yeah.
I had one Friday or yesterday that I recorded, which I'm really excited about.
Good.
And I made it through that one, and so far so good. So
before I meet my phone, I'm going to send my wife a text and ask her to bring me a cough drop.
Oh,
I don't think she's watching.
Very sweet of her.
Yeah.
You should ask her how much she's worth.
I will. When she comes down, I'll ask her that. If she gets my message. She has a tendency to like not have her phone near her. This is a thing that we fight about a lot.
My wife does not have her phone near her when I need her to have her phone.
Yes. That's
I'm like,
very
why do we
good
even
point.
fucking pay for phones?
I hear her walking around, so she's getting it. But she's definitely not watching, so that's going to be funny. What's up? So what do you think of our lineup tonight? Are you ready?
Oh God, we're gonna fucking get labeled as A-cabbers, I think, after this one, huh?
I
was
don't
really hoping, by the
know.
way, there was a comment on your video from this free thinker guy. I hope he's here.
Yeah. Did you watch the video he was talking about?
I
Thanks,
watched.
honey.
I
Here,
watched.
1 second. My wife came down. Honey,
Hi, honey.
what was it? Why was I talking about selling her, putting her on the market? Do you remember?
I don't remember, man. That was like 4 minutes ago.
We were trying to figure out how much you were worth on the street.
Oh.
Like not to rent, to buy.
Oh golly.
What do you think?
It's like
What
that scene in the Blues Brothers. How much for the girl?
It's not Blues Brothers. It's
It's absolutely Blues Brothers. Don't question me on that. That is the greatest movie of all time. How much?
when he's
your
like, how
wife?
much for the little
$3.
girls? No, I thought it was
Blues
it
Brothers.
was because they're trying to embarrass the guy at the restaurant. I was thinking of Animal House.
You want to see
Similar
a zit?
actors. She didn't give me a number. I think she's opposed to this line of questioning. We'll ask her next time she's on stream.
You're in a Christmas shirt. Come on.
I am in a Christmas shirt.
I like it.
All right. No, did you have a chance to watch the video that Freethinker shared? He's right here.
Oh, hey, buddy. No, it was it was your video that you made to the introduction to this one.
I know, but
Video.
he put a comment in there and he said, "Here's one where an officer was fired and rehired like twice."
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Oh, I watched it and I thought it was a little bit of a nothing burger, to be honest. We can go over it if we get time after we do this stuff. Right.
Big points for the phrase of nothing burger. It's one of my favorites currently.
You're welcome. I'm here to serve. So I've got the email up that I sent you. Whoa. How should we approach this first one with the civil rights lawyer?
Let's just play it. Let's just take it in all of its glory.
Okay. How do you guys feel about that, chat? Because I think this one kind of opens up a lot of different topics.
I
right?
think it's a good introduction to some of the stuff we're going to talk about and throws out some ideas.
Yeah. It kind of opened up a can of worms.
Pandora's box.
Yeah, and it's only 6 minutes. Let's see. I just want to tell you if I could have left 1,000 video examples. Yeah, we'll get into some of that.
Hey, can I just make a comment? And I'm not trying to be condescending, but you know what? Nope. I'm just going to keep it to myself. Let's play the video.
All right. So this video is short. It's only 6 minutes and 17 seconds. For those of you who don't know, this is the civil rights. Is it just the civil rights lawyer on YouTube? Is that his channel name? Yeah, civil rights lawyer. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He lives in West Virginia, I believe. He looks like he's stoned in this moment that I have it paused here. He makes a living by suing police departments for civil rights violations. He's becoming a little bit more famous on YouTube, and he put out this video. Somebody sent it to me, and it was after I had mentioned a couple run-ins that I had with like autistic children, and how, I was really glad. Oh, I need to change my microphone settings. I made a video talking about how I was really proud of kind of how everything went. Do you remember how to change my mic settings?
Are we doing a live stream? What are you doing, Boomer? Come on, man.
No, it's a live stream. Yes, totally professional.
Not very professional.
But he sent me this video and he's like, it's unfortunate that all officers aren't like you. So I watched this video. There's no actual body camera footage, but it's a lot of commentary from this guy. And a lot of things that we're going to talk about kind of come from talking points that he brings up in this video. So that's why we're going to start with it, right?
Let's go with it.
All right, let's go. I think we might just play it. We'll hop off the screen for a minute.
On February 23rd, 2022, a 12-year-old autistic boy reportedly ran away from home. Law enforcement was dispatched. That child encountered Deputy Matthew Honus, who handcuffed and hogtied the child and then tased him without warning in the deputy's police cruiser. This happened on February 23, 2022 in Jackson County, Kansas. Although the officer was fired, the government is doing what government does. It's hiding the video footage. Also, the government is protecting a bad cop who is a threat to public safety. They fired him, then they let things settle down for a while. Then, when it's no longer in the news, the officer pops up somewhere else and continues working as a police officer. I know you guys like to see footage, but bear with me here for just a couple of reasons. One, those of you who follow my work and my content know that I continuously have to fight in order to use important police footage in my videos. That means delays in putting out consistent content. Here, unless they want to censor my words, they really can't stop me. Two, we need to help spread the word and keep the pressure on government officials in Kansas who are hoping this goes away. The footage needs to be in the public domain and seen by anyone and everyone. That, in turn, may help to get real accountability for this police officer, Matthew Honus. There was no report of the child committing any crimes other than running away from home, which perhaps is some juvenile delinquency status offense under state law in Kansas. There was a history between this child and the officer previously. Deputy Honus had previously encountered this child and was aware that he was autistic, and during the prior encounter, there was also a physical struggle, according to a report that disciplined the officer. But no details are provided. Is there any video footage? How do we know what really happened? The Topeka Capital Journal newspaper reported that Honus was not wearing a body cam, but that most of the interaction was captured by his in-car camera. The Capital Journal attempted to obtain a copy of the footage via an open records request, but was denied under the open criminal investigation exception to the disclosure laws under state law. Honus was fired a little over a week after this incident. Termination of employment isn't enough, though. Why? Because bad cops just pop up somewhere else, usually in a small town that pays less. Then, when they get what they pay for, which is a police officer who is already certified and experienced, but also willing to work for less because they're damaged goods and a liability risk. The Kansas Commission on Peace Officers Standards and Training, which oversees law enforcement certifications in Kansas, issued a disciplinary report that reprimanded Deputy Honus. The report concluded that Deputy Honus used excessive force multiple times throughout his contact with the child. He, quote, shoved, elbowed, applied pressure points, carried, pulled, hogtied, and ultimately tased the child. During this time, the child was, quote, sitting in the patrol car and, quote, not actively resisting. His hands were cuffed behind his back. Deputy Honus began to press the child's jaw pressure points without giving any direction to the child to do anything. This, the report concluded, appeared to be of a punitive nature. But it gets worse. Deputy Honus refused and canceled assistance from two other available police officers. He chose not to use de-escalation techniques. He failed to use the other options he had in restraining the child. He said that he was going to call a transport van, but he did not. On several occasions, Deputy Honus applied pain compliance techniques without even telling the child what he was supposed to do. He told the boy, when the other guy gets here, you're going to hurt more. He also said, here's the deal. You do anything you're not supposed to do, I will tase you again. The report ultimately concluded that Deputy Honus engaged in, quote, unprofessional conduct, which at least in part is defined as, quote, using excessive physical force and carrying out a law enforcement objective. The report, for purposes of law enforcement discipline in Kansas, then defines excessive force as, quote, physical force greater than what a reasonable and prudent officer would use under the circumstances. Unfortunately, the report merely reprimanded Deputy Honus rather than revoke his certification to continue to work elsewhere in Kansas as a police officer. Isn't it crazy that I just did another hog-tying video where there was body cam footage out of Colorado? And in that video, I discussed some rare hog-tying law that existed in the 10th Circuit. Well, guess what? It can be confusing to understand which states are in which federal circuits. But guess which federal circuit Kansas is in? That's right, the 10th Circuit, just like Colorado in that video. Remember what I said in that other video. A quick glance at the case law there shows anyone who bothers to look that hog tying is a terrible idea for a police officer, for anyone. But we know police officers, don't we? They live for the most part in a world with no accountability. That means that they don't learn from their mistakes, and they certainly don't bother checking the case law in the first place because they don't need to. So runaway 12-year-old autistic boy, what the hell? Let's hog tie him. There's a 2008 case, Weigel versus Broad, out of the 10th Circuit.
I think we've covered enough. I think I've watched enough of him. What do you think, Lenny?
No accountability, buddy.
Yeah,
We live in a
zero.
world of no accountability for police officers. None
You
at
know-
all.
It's crazy because as I'm watching this video, like especially in the beginning, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it sounds like the guy's kind of spot on with his analysis. Well, he has a lot of merit with his analysis. And then he just takes it to this crazy extreme that it's hard to take the video seriously anymore.
You know, I thought of that kind of the same way as, you know, he would say some stuff that made sense, and then he'd go off and like, you know, spew what he wanted to spew because, you know, obviously I think there's a market for not liking cops and people like that type of content. You know, but they, you know, bad cops, and they showed the video of like the stock photo of the cop with, you know, dark sunglasses.
Yeah.
It's like, come the fuck on, dude. Like, give your balls a tug. Look, man, there's going to be no argument from us. Like, bad police work is bad police work. I'm a little, I don't know. He just cracks me up as far as like, he just kind of gives the shady lawyer vibes. Like, why are all lawyers like this?
Not all lawyers.
Every single, oh, come on. Well,
There's some good lawyers.
I can think of one that we both
I know
know.
one.
But-
I know two.
Okay. Defense attorneys. How about that?
Yeah. Or civil rights attorneys.
You know, and it's like you get the same type of, it's like when they go past the bar, there's like a specific way they have to talk into the camera, and that's all of them talk that same way. It's pretty funny.
I mean,
You missed the part where he played the banjo though. That was really good.
did he do that?
At the very end of the video, he's playing the banjo.
Oh man. We can go back to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a good communications technique. He's good at driving his point and making a compelling argument to people that are going to be compelled. But gosh, because like I didn't even watch it that far when I watched it the first time. Let's see. I find it strange how he would never. Well,
He can't.
he
I just
talks
wanna
in the
highlight
video
he
about
can't because it's not
the
out.
video's not available. I gosh, there's so many things. I didn't take notes like you did. Did you take good notes?
Oh,
of things
fuck,
you-
no, I didn't.
Oh, okay, good.
I was drunk last night downloading a podcast, and I rewatched everything because the notes aren't great.
Oh, sweet. Well, because someone brought up the video, so I want to talk about that because that's something that I have experience with. I can't get videos of juveniles. I just know that to be a fact. That's part of Ohio open records law. And there's also the exception for current investigation. Although it seems a little flimsy in this case because they've already fired the guy. So I would think that the investigation is over and he wasn't charged and it happened some time ago. But generally speaking, they don't release videos of juveniles unless they blur the crap out of them. So I don't know. That's my thought on that.
All right. So free thinker, I can't help myself. I was trying to be
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, like there's some not so good cops. We know, man. We know. Everybody knows that you're a free thinker, though. We
Yes.
wouldn't know unless that was your username. So thank you for your service, free thinker.
Yeah.
There's so many other free thinkers you had to come up with a random number too. Because there wasn't just like free thinker one.
Saying that he sues cops for a living is not a pejorative. That is literally what he does. He files lawsuits against police officers, police departments, and municipalities. That's how he makes his money. That is the lens that he views the world through. It is very clear in the style that he made this video. End point. I'm not going to argue with you about that.
Can I think we can make a fair point here, though. It's like dudes like him have to exist, though, right? There's a check and balance with all of this. I don't know this lawyer. I mean, I know of lawyers and I have my opinion because I'm a cop. It's like the dog and cat thing. But we all have to kind of coexist. But can we be objective? That's the thing. Can we be objective about things?
Well, because the flip side of it is if I say something on this live stream or on a podcast or something like that, and my employer comes after me, I'm gonna have to look for a civil rights lawyer to sue my employer. They do serve a purpose. It's just sometimes they're a little bit slip and fall, and that is what it is. I had, not to go too far off topic, but I had to give a deposition for an officer involved shooting that I was 300 yards away from, on the other side of a fence and the other side of a building. And I had to go and give a sworn testimony on. The attorney for this person's family was the most greasy, slimeball, condescending piece of shit I've ever talked to in my entire life. He actually, one of his first questions was, did you ever serve in the military? And when I said, as a matter of fact, I did, he goes, oh, well, thank you for your service. And I was like, fuck you, motherfucker. Like, come on, bring me the stupid fucking questions. And he was just asking the most, and like one of the things that he was really harping on is whether or not we can tell the difference between someone having an extreme mental health episode and somebody having an extreme reaction to a hallucinogenic drug, and what our training is on that. And I looked him dead in the eye and said, it doesn't really matter what the person is being affected by. If they are carrying 2 large knives and they're literally trying to stab somebody with those knives, the appropriate level of force is deadly force. That was literally what I was giving a deposition on. This guy they were fighting so hard to try to get this family money. And they don't care about right and wrong. They only care about making money. I will take that to my grave. So that's my soapbox moment.
Yeah, there's, we don't believe in stereotypes, but there is a reason there's stereotypes about lawyers, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, stuff like this, and this is kind of the theme of the live stream, is that incidents like this do need to be brought to light. They need to be talked about. And I think there's definitely an argument to be had that they are not always handled appropriately. Do you agree with me on that one, Lenny?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Hang on, I got a big cough.
Well, I'll talk while you do your big cough. That was a quick big cough. I'm really proud of you. It kind of freaked me out.
I charged it up.
So if we could talk about, the context of the video and the content, so to speak, is the issue with like the autistic kid, right? And a lot of you guys had really good, hey, how big was the kid, stuff like that. They had a history. When I look at this, and it's hard to say anything without the video because who knows what's on that video, but I like to think if the body that covers law enforcement, the Kansas Post Board says he used excessive force, that's pretty fucking damning. And it kind of surprises me they didn't revoke his post based on the statements in their own letter. I know in Colorado, you're getting charged. If there's excessive force, you are getting charged with a crime.
Yeah. And I wanted to back up just a little bit, but not go too far. Just to mention, he keeps harping on the fact this is a 12-year-old kid with autism that the officer shouldn't have had to use force on. And when we were talking about this before, I think the day that I watched this video, I had just yanked a kid out of my car and pinned him down on the ground and handcuffed him. And he was 12 or 13 years old. You're going to have uses of force against children. It does that. Like, they don't have to be a threat to you for you to have to use force. If you need to take that child and get them under control, you need to get them under control. That might require handcuffs. It might require, we call it a hobble strap. He kept calling it hog tying. And he said that it's never appropriate. Well, that's bullshit.
Well, it'd be interesting though. Like an actual hog tie, the way I was trained. Yeah. But hobbling someone is appropriate. It just depends on what it is. Like if he actually, did the old school hog tying, yeah, that's a problem.
Well, I mean, we put the hobble around their feet and then we bring it up and tie it around the handcuffs in the back. You're effectively hog tied.
Yeah. The way I was taught was not on the handcuffs, but
but it's kind of finer points that aren't necessary. I don't know. But like,
if I could tell a story though about, using force on 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
We want to live in this utopian world where bad things don't happen and kids don't do bad things. And that's just it's not true. There are a ton of kids you can talk down and talk to, and it's not a big deal. Sometimes it doesn't work, just like anybody else on the planet. But I have a scenario, and I don't think it's uncommon. There was a kid that lived in my jurisdiction that he was autistic and he got out all the time. The problem, though, was he was a big kid, and he would break into houses, right? Not necessarily to steal, but that's just what he liked to do. He liked to go into houses. If we let this kid go and he breaks into a house and he gets shot by the homeowner because they think they're being robbed, the blame's going to be on the police. Well, why didn't you do anything to restrain the kid? And I'm not saying that was what was happening in this scenario. I'm just saying there's always way more to the story that you never get in any of these type of situations.
Yeah. And the way he's framing the story is that, oh, it's just a 12-year-old. There's no reason to restrain him, no reason to hog tie him, no reason to have use of force. He wasn't committing any crimes. You know, it's like, hold your horses there for a second, just like you kind of described. If this kid is got a severe disability and he's unable to make correct decisions and he's out running around, he's a danger to himself, that you don't need a crime to detain somebody in that manner. You know, we take people that are high, and out of their mind on drugs. We do that stuff. If they're schizophrenic, seeing demons and stuff climbing through the walls, we detain those people. We use force on those people to detain them. There's a lot of reasons to do this without having a crime. Now, some of the stuff that he's describing, like you alluded to, yeah, it sounds like this officer might have gone too far. You know, if this commission or whoever it is that reviews these things says that he went too far, I'm going to take their word for it and say that he went too far. So like, I'm not letting the officer off the hook here. We're just saying, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why initially this might have been the appropriate way to go. When it comes to who dropped the ball, it's an interesting one because I've had this argument with people before. You can be found out of policy in a use of force. You're told that you used too much force. You can be handed discipline for that. It doesn't mean that you need to be criminally charged, and it doesn't mean that you need to be fired. They chose to fire this officer rather than escalate their discipline level, and then he was able to get hired somewhere else. We don't know exactly what he did. What he did might be one of those things where it's like, damn, this guy shouldn't be a cop anymore. And it's kind of on the department that has the reins on him at the time. I think they're the ones that are responsible for that. I don't think that the department that hired him afterwards necessarily is responsible for hiring him. Does that make sense? Or is that, you have a different line of thought?
I do have a different line of thought. The way I was brought up, excessive force generally, the way I was taught and the way I understood it in my department, that just wasn't something that could ever happen, and that you were going to get charged and you were going to get fired. And so that was always, in our head. And we had a policy, like if you didn't report what you thought was excessive force, you could get shit canned for it. So that's kind of the line of thinking I come from with excessive force. I mean, there's all kinds of policy violations and things like that, but that's, I don't know. It's kind of hard to articulate because, what's the line? Like you might have somebody that uses a taser, which may not line up with policy, but it's within state law. That's a little bit different, right? That's kind of an example I can give. Yeah. But excessive force is, excessive force. So without actually knowing what this dude did, I don't know, and what it's like. But you said something else I wanted to talk about as far as the other department. I think if the other department's doing a background check, and I mean they should be checking into these things.
I don't know if there's a mechanism for that.
To do a background check? To do a background check.
No, to do to look into every use of force he's ever had and the investigation into him.
I mean, we found it though, right?
Yeah, but I think, who knows? He probably found out about it because someone's trying to file a lawsuit, and someone, somebody probably contacted him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to look into this," or they're networking and getting that kind of information. But I do, because there's going to be a couple other cases that we're going to look at here, where an officer had a like a bad use of force, and then he went and moved on to another department. In this video, he's accusing the government of hiding officers. I don't think that's the case at all. And I can actually tell a story. And this is one of those things that I still don't quite understand how it happens, to be honest. Like an officer getting fired for an egregious use of force and then just being able to get rehired somewhere else. There needs to be a mechanism to prevent that from happening. There are officers who get fired for bullshit political reasons. This department, who knows why they fired him. But I've seen officers that got fired when they should not have been fired. And then they get rehired by the same department because they've sued and get their job back because they were not the reason they were fired did not follow past practices. That's why officers get their job back. I understand that. I don't have a problem with that in most cases. But if you get fired from one department for an egregious out of policy use of force, there needs to be something to stop you from getting a job somewhere else. And the case that I want to bring up, I don't have video, I don't have news articles, I don't have anything. This is 100% word of mouth. So I'm not going to mention the guy or the department that he works for now. But it was on Thanksgiving when I was out looking for a homicide suspect. Did you catch I put a voice message in our chat. Did you catch it, Lenny, when I
did.
Posted it? Yeah.
I did.
I was out talking to homeless people all day because I was trying to find this homicide suspect. And there's a little pocket of jurisdiction that belongs to somebody else where some of these homeless people live. And I was over there talking to them. I started off the conversation by saying, we heard that there's a problem with homeless people out here making too much of a mess. Here, I'm going to get this guy's face off the screen. Said, you guys are making too much of a mess out here. We're getting complaints about y'all. You need to clean up, and then I need your information for a report, because if I have to come back here, I might have to charge you. They were all really open and understanding to my line of questioning. The reason I was getting their names is because I was trying to find my suspect. And then I had an idea in my back pocket that my murder suspect, I was going to show him his picture and say, hey, we're also looking for this guy. He's been reported missing, and I heard that he has some kind of mental illness, so we're trying to find him. That was going to be my in to talk to these guys and try to farm information from them. While I'm trying to talk to him, this dipshit officer comes flying in, jumps out. I'm literally talking to these people, had a very good rapport with them, good relationship with them. And he starts yelling at them. He's like, you guys know that you shouldn't be out here. It's too fucking dirty, blah, 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 just screaming at him. And I turn to him and I go, hey, we're working something here. He looks at me, goes, yeah, I know what you're doing. And then he turns and starts yelling at him again and tells him to pick up their shit and get the fuck out of here. And I was like, you're literally jumping on my investigation. Like, this is fucked up. You don't do this to another officer, blah, blah, blah. We get back to the sub, and one of my buddies is like, hey, you know who that guy is, right? And I didn't. Apparently there was a use of force incident that was captured on probably cruiser video. And this officer, there was a guy on his hands and knees, and this officer ran up to him and kicked him in the face. It was just a completely unnecessary use of force, and, out of policy all the way around. Well, he didn't report the use of force. So when he was approached about it, he denied that this use of force even occurred. Investigation ensued. He was fired by the department that I work for now, as he should have been. You can't kick a dude who's on his hands and knees. You can't kick that guy in the face and expect to have a job as a cop. So he's fired, and then he turns around and gets hired by this other agency, and he's out there harassing homeless people and fucking up our homicide investigations. And honestly, when I heard that, it blew me away. I don't know how people like that can get hired on at another agency. That kind of thing needs to stop. Do you have any personal experiences with stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, and I wanted, because this kind of relates to Drew's comment, because he made an amazing comment, and I've been thinking kind of about this all day, but he's smarter than me and put it in better context. Is should doctors who accidentally kill patients never be allowed to work again? That's a big philosophical question we need to ask ourselves, right? We're sitting here kind of talking about like, let's use your dude, for example. I mean, we could use the guy in Kansas, but let's use your guy, right? Because that's fresh in our minds.
Mhm.
He fucks up and he kicks somebody. How does he
And-
deal with it later, right? Does
And
he
he,
say,
and he lied about it.
Okay, so he lied, right? But
Yeah.
let's say let's put on our magic hats here and say, I fucked up. I shouldn't have done that. I really messed up. He does his time. Can he go back on the road? I mean, I think there's an argument for that. Like he assaulted somebody, he could get charged for that. So I don't know the right answer to that, Drew, but I think it's on context, right? I mean, let's talk about the civil rights lawyer, right? Like, let's talk about our society. We want people to not go to jail. We want people to, it's a minor mistake, right? Except when it's for cops. But let's be objective here. Can a cop make a big mistake, and still be a cop? I've made mistakes in my life. I've made huge mistakes in my life. We're going to judge me for 30 seconds of my life. That's a question we have to answer. I think it depends on what it is and how you handle it. But that's
Your wife judges you for 30 seconds of your life all the time.
I disappoint her for 30 seconds of her life constantly.
But I think that is one of the things too, is that an accident is an accident. And accidents are going to happen. I think people just need to realize that officers are going to make mistakes. They're going to have accidents. Sometimes those accidents are deadly force accidents. If everything was in good faith and, yada, 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 it is what it is, man. Doctors are the same way. But there are officers that definitely go overboard. It's something that you have to really fight the urge. I'm not saying that with 12-year-olds, you need to fight the urge to use too much force, that you should be more in control of yourself in those situations. But I've definitely had suspects that I've chased down and that they gave up, and I didn't want them to give up because I wanted to get my money's worth out of that foot chase, if you know what I mean. And the second that I caught them or they stumbled and I ran up on them, and they put their hands up, it was over. And it was frustrating, but that's what you have to do as a police officer. The retaliatory stuff. And there's even in the heat of the moment. I say it all the
time on my podcast. The run tax is not part of the Fourth Amendment.
No. And like, I understand a little bit, like if you're running after someone and they hit the ground and you jump on top of them and then place them in handcuffs, you know what? Sometimes they need to make sure that they understand that the police are in contact with them. I get it. It's not the way I do things, but that's not the end of the world. But we all know when someone's already in handcuffs and you trip them or put their face into the cruiser, there's going to be some of those videos coming up today. We need to be able to differentiate between those two. That's the one big thing. And that for some reason in this discussion in our society, people don't differentiate between an honest mistake and an officer that's truly doing the wrong thing. And when we're not being honest, you're not going to make any progress.
Well, there's two comments here I wanted to talk about. DC Viper, you made a great point. The cops in Colorado that left the cruiser on the tracks. It was really fucking stupid. But did they mean to do that? I don't think there's any way you can say they meant to do that. They fucked up, right? And so I'd like to say that would something that would have never happened to me on the job, and I'm sure you would say the same thing, Ben. But is that he had another one I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we'll stop addressing everything he says in a minute, but the QA thing.
Well, here, hold on. This one was even better. Let me rephrase. The difference is a doctor has 14 or 15 years of training. He cuts the wrong artery. It's a genuine mistake. Opposed to a cop who's got 5.5 months of training. That logic makes no sense.
Yeah.
Your cop your doctor has 3 times as much training. But you're cool with that. Policing is a terribly difficult job. It's almost an impossible job sometimes because there's all these ins and outs. And yeah, I'll agree with you. There is poor training for cops. Why don't you talk to your state congressman and get them more training? Just saying.
Yeah, the problem is states and large governments do a shitty job of picking the training as well. When people bitch and complain that we need more training for cops, they add more training that is not useful. We get more implicit bias training, we get more diversity training, we get videos on how to throw a rescue rope onto a pond. We get just so many useless fucking pieces of training that don't improve our ability to do our job, but it gives us more training. Therefore, we're better trained. There's so much of this that people are demanding that they don't understand what it is that they're demanding. And that's very frustrating. But I wanted to get, because he brought up the qualified immunity thing. You can sue a doctor, you can't sue a cop. Cities and jurisdictions pay out millions of dollars a year in settlements. Just because it's not coming out of my pocket doesn't mean that it's not, that the person is not being taken care of. Just stop it. We're an agent of the government. The government is mostly responsible for what we do.
But hold on a second, folks. If we're not within the color of law, you can sue us.
Yeah. Qualified officers do lose qualified immunity. Qualified immunity also covers jurisdictions and things too. It's not just the officers. There are lots and lots, like, let's say it's a very clear-cut example. I'm searching a house for a burglary suspect because I arrive on an alarm. The front door has been kicked in. I'm searching this house. I open a closet, and there's a dude in there with a gun sitting like this, looking me right in the eye. I shoot the guy. His family is going to sue, or if he lives, he's going to sue for an excessive use of force and a Fourth Amendment violation, yada, yada, yada. The city and the city's attorneys are going to submit an appeal for dismissal under qualified immunity, because courts have already ruled that if you point a gun at a police officer in that situation and he shoots you, that has already been deemed reasonable. We're not going to put society through a trial and waste all of our time and energy on that kind of thing. That is something that qualified immunity does. It's not, okay, officers are immune from anything while they're doing their job. I'm going to make a video on it at some point. It's one of the most misunderstood concepts in the world of policing. So that's it. We're not talking to you anymore.
You're going to do the video, and then people are going to argue with you about, like, oh, qualified immunity needs to end, and they're not going to listen to a word you say.
No, but that's fine.
Wall, dude.
That's on them. As far as I'm concerned, I think we've set the stage pretty well, and we're almost an hour in. You ready to move on to the next?
Yeah, I'm game.
Let's see. So much experience comes from the doing the job, not solely on his training. That is such a fantastic point, Becky. I make that point a lot. And it's one of the reasons that I kind of harp on the difference between large agencies and small agencies and busy areas and not busy areas. And it's a reason that I have a problem with these across the board training demands as well, because there are officers in the state of Ohio. I don't know. You name a town that has like a 10 officer department where basically no crime happens. Those officers are going to require a lot more training than I'm going to require, because I do more in a week than they might do in a couple of months. And just the fact that I'm constantly interacting with people in these high pressure situations, constantly, if I make a mistake, my partners and I talk about what we did right and what we did wrong. Like, we do this after almost every single run. We're constantly training. These guys that don't get that many calls for service, they do need more training than we do. That's just the fact of the matter.
I know you hate small town.
I don't hate small towns, but they do need the help. And I've seen it. Hey, Dexter's here. He said he was going to try to sneak in. But I've even seen it in my own city from talking to detectives. Detectives, when they show up where I work, they'll say, you know what? It's so nice when we come to a crime scene on you guys. it's all sealed, it's all taken care of, the witnesses are secured, everything is like nice in order for us. When we show up on a precinct where virtually nothing happens, one of the wealthier precincts, often it's a shit show. Like I've had detectives that they're like, dude, there was a witness to a shooting standing outside the tape and they weren't secured, and they had to tell the officer to put that person in a car. It's because those officers don't get the reps on these like high pressure, high profile runs that the officers get in the busier areas. So,
well, again, this harkens back to training. Is, you know, when the states mandate training, it's you know, whatever XYZ, you know, make people feel good training. It's never the actual training that people need.
yeah, it's crazy. For the next one, I had a video of a use of force against an autistic person. Did you want to go to that one, or you want to go to the Hardin County deputy?
I watched that one, and I mean, really, just the first couple of minutes is what I watched of it, and I think you could definitely, I don't know, we could point at some things, but I would say we should move on to the other one. I think that one.
Okay. Let me see. I will pull up. Should I pull up the video or the news story?
You know, the news story is good. The video is good too. Maybe we could do both.
I'll do the news story first. How's that?
Let's do it. He's a professional, folks. Don't worry.
Yeah, totally.
I'll just sit here and do nothing while he does everything, and mock him.
And then, yeah, you sit on your couch and do nothing and say that you could have done it better.
I wish I had a couch down here. I was thinking about splurging on a better chair. I also want a better mic setup. So I've heard I'm actually a little quiet on these. Can you guys hear me okay?
It sounds good to me. There we go. So here's a story that I think hopefully Dex is still watching. I found this on I Am Pitt's podcast. He was talking about the video. And so we have the video and we have the news story about it. The story is LMPD, which is Louisville Metro Police Department, fires former Hardin County deputy after a video surfaces of him punching a suspect. And it goes on to say that, the Louisville Metro Police Department fired Donald Rusty Johnson on Friday. Johnson, who was hired in May and still on probation with the department. The controversial arrest happened in February of 2021 when Johnson worked as a Hardin County sheriff at the sheriff's office. Police tried to pull over this guy for a taillight. Basically, the guy fled. High rate of speed into oncoming traffic. A lot of that stuff. They catch up to him. They beat the ever-living piss out of him. And where was the sheriff? So the Hardin County Sheriff's Office, in an internal review, found that it was a necessary use of force. Because when the guy got out of the car, he dropped a knife. And they thought that it was basically free reign from that point on. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I don't know. I watched the video, and maybe we should play the video. But I have lots of thoughts on that video, to say the least.
All righty. Pitts, rusty trombone. So here's the video. This is dash cam after a quasi pursuit.
Make it bigger.
What's that?
Make it bigger.
That's what she said. It's as big as I can make it.
Up to your hands! Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach!
Why is it? Let me close some windows on my computer.
Come on, man. Be a professional.
I know. You guys need to pay me more so I can buy better internet.
But I was saying you should take us off the screen so they can see it a little bit better.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
I think I can.
All right, I'm going to take it.
Show me your hands now! Show me your fucking hands! Show me your hands! Get on your stomach! Get Get on your stomach!
Four six three 571 264.
All right, I think that's good enough. So this one is we're kind of along this theme, but this one's interesting because his use of force was found to be in policy by the agency that he worked for. So when he applied to be a lateral transfer, there was no red flags, no reason for Louisville not to hire him. Then when this video surfaced, they went ahead and fired him. What are your thoughts?
So the cop in me just automatically wants to say that is not how you do a high risk stop. Just don't swarm the vehicle, slow it down. I get it was kind of, you can never make a stop perfect. It got kind of screwed up, but slow down a little bit, right? And I'm Monday morning quarterbacking here, right? But the cursing and stuff, it didn't sound like that guy was in control of his emotions, right?
Yeah.
There is a time and place. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and place, but we're just hindsight being 2020. But I looked at how he took him down, and it's not fair because I was trained a certain way, and he could have had control of the guy's arm right there, and he kind of gave it up to dump him to the ground. If I watched that right.
See right here, a pocket knife fell out.
Okay.
And that's what they're claiming.
By the way.
What's that?
I thought I knew there was something about him reaching for a pocket knife or something.
Yeah. So, and I'm not going to do slow or anything, but yeah. So if your justification is he had a knife between his knees and you knew it was there and you wanted to remove him from that knife, I guess I can understand yanking him off position. If the guy's drunk and he's
that makes a whole lot more sense.
But then you go. And I guess the guy kind of did turn.
Yeah, he did. I mean, here's the thing I wanted to say about this one is people will yell things that they're not doing, right? And you can hear this kind of yelling and stuff, but I remember there was one where I had a guy, it was actually kind of similar to this. The dude ran into a fire hydrant and we're wrestling with him. And I remember him saying, I'm not fighting. And he was fighting.
But he was, yeah.
But he was absolutely fighting me. It's hard to see what this dude's doing on the ground. I mean, if the guy's legitimately reaching for a knife, all right, he gets fucking punched, That's kind of on him. It's and this is what Viper said, is it's kind of hard to tell if he's resisting or if it's Rodney King based on where this dash camera is.
Yeah.
It sure as fuck looks bad. I'll give you that. But I hate to make the judgment without actually knowing. But again, it's one of those things what's the definition of insanity? Is keep repeating something if it's not working. I don't know. It looked like there was a lot of punches. But again, if the dude's reaching for a knife, would you rather him get roughed up a little bit or get shot in the back of the head?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and
maybe you saw it differently than me.
no, I mean, I do, and it's one of those things where it's like there's the right thing, and then there's like technically within policy or technically based on training. Because remind me of the guy in Mississippi that shot that guy in the face. I always forget his name.
Oh, you mean Arkansas?
Arkansas, yeah.
That was oh shoot, I forget the kid's name, but it was in Huntsville.
Yeah, but it's kind of like that. And I want to address that in a second. But it's like, he had a suicidal man with a gun in the same room as another officer who walked in, shot the guy in the face. Sure, per policy, but he did so many things to put himself in a bad situation. That's why he ended up going to prison. This is kind of a similar thing. It's just not as serious of an offense. You get the guy out of the car, and if he's holding his hands under him and he's possibly got a weapon, yes, there's uses of force that are going to occur in that situation. But the problem is it doesn't appear that they ever gave him the opportunity to surrender. They just dogpiled him and started beating on him. You have to take your emotions out of the situation, especially in this day and age. So like it's one of those things that definitely looks bad. I understand why there's because there's a FBI investigation into it now. I don't know what they're going to find. Definitely looks bad. Dexter thought it was bad, and he has some thoughts on this guy. Says he was only on for a few months and he had a ton of complaints. My buddy who trained him said he was a hothead, 4 departments in 6 years.
That's a warning sign.
I didn't even get to read the whole thing. Yeah, that fits perfectly in line with our topic. How the fuck do you work in 4 departments in 6 years and be a hothead and keep getting hired?
Well, and here's the thing too. There's context with everything, and like I said, there's always more to the story. Let's just pretend it's us, right? We're relatively calm individuals for the most part.
Yeah.
Let's say that's our stop, and somebody watches that and they're like, "What the fuck?" Ben and Lenny, or whatever the fuck my name is, they're laying into this dude, and they go, "Well, they've never done anything like that." And then we come back and we explain, "Yeah, this guy's reaching for a knife, and we couldn't get control of him. Like, we didn't want him to stab us, But then if it's the guy that does this crap all the time,
yeah,
then it's like, all right, this is just another example of this type of stuff.
Yeah, because it's kind of like if you have to mace a handcuffed prisoner, it happens sometimes. It's rare, but it happens. But if there's an officer who's constantly macing handcuffed prisoners, there's a problem. You know what I mean?
Well, you asked me earlier if you were talking about the guy that had been gotten into some trouble and went to another smaller department and fucked up your investigation. I said, yeah, I've seen that. Mm-hmm. And it was a guy that he was always using his taser, right? Mm-hmm. I hate tasers, but I use them if I need it. I used it one time in 8.5 years, and I got into a ton of use of forces because I was a proactive cop. Never used my taser. Hardly ever got complaints. It's possible to do it, right? And so when you see the guy that always weekly is calling for a taser deployment, yeah, is it within policy, but is he really doing his best not to use it? It makes me kind of think about it,
these are the warning signs, but it is, I don't know. We could go on forever with this particular thing. I don't know if we can ever solve it. Do you think there's a way to solve this particular thing where you have an officer who is 4 departments in 6 years, something like this? How do you keep him from getting hired? Like, is it on the hiring department or to screen better, or is it on the department that had him as an officer to find it appropriately, even though they found this to be in policy? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a very hard time defining
the department that hired him, right? They've never seen this video. All they know is he's had this use of force and it was found within policy, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think they'd be looking for body camera video of all the use of force. You
I
know,
wouldn't.
they go over there and they look at his file and they say, "Yep, he had this use of force. It was found good. It was found good." I don't think that's really on that department
Yeah.
in that case.
I think in this one, it comes down to the sheriff's department that it came from. But it's one of those things, too, that it's so close. Were the strikes, according to their testimony, appropriate? Probably. But they don't pass the eye test. And I think that some scrutiny needs to be had there. And you can find somebody out of policy without firing them, but just document it. Say, hey, look, because like when our uses of force are looked at, like we have like a low level force is just looked at by a sergeant. If we throw a strike or anything above that, it goes up the chain. And some of it goes to our defensive tactics unit. They will review our uses of force as well, put out a little blurb on whether or not they think it was appropriate. What I was taught is, if you punch somebody, each strike is a use of force. And you have to answer for each use of force. If you run up on a guy in this situation, you rip him off of a knife and he puts his hands under him and you're afraid that he's got a knife and you start punching him. Well, the second that his arms come up and he starts blocking his head, those other punches are not okay. And that's what I kind of saw in this video.
Yeah.
And that stuff needs to be appropriately documented. Accountability for that kind of thing isn't just the officer, it's the entire chain of command that signed off on it. I feel strongly about that because then you have a department like Louisville, which I don't even know who their chief is now. I think they had a chief just resign or retire, whatever. But they've had so much controversy the last couple of years that they're just not going to tolerate, an officer like this. They're going to fire him immediately. And I think most departments in this climate would, the moment a video like this comes out, if they're still on probation.
Well, and like I said, it looked bad. It looked bad, but if he's reaching for a knife, maybe he gets punched. But you're right. I mean, if the guy his hands are up, why are you punching him? Grab his hands, put him in handcuffs.
Yeah, there's multiple times where it looked like he was in a defensive position.
Okay, and maybe I missed that. I know there was one time, like I thought one of them had one arm and there were still strikes, but I was like, well, maybe the other arm's under. It's just, and I know what happened before this was a pursuit, right? Which, to be fair with everybody, like those really get your heart racing. That amplifies everything up. And I hate saying this because people take it the wrong way, but if the dude pulled over and got out of the car and, whatever, when he had warrants or whatever, this is a non-issue, right?
Yeah.
Police are paid to deal with these sets of circumstances, right? So there's no, I can't make the excuse like, well, if you didn't run from the police, you didn't get your ass beat. That's not the way it's supposed to work. But I think in context, you're helping everybody out if you just take onus of your screw ups, so it doesn't turn into one of these crazy things. Because when you get into a pursuit, not only are you risking your life, the officers' lives, how many innocent civilians have been killed in police pursuits?
Yeah.
So it's a very selfish thing for a lot of different reasons.
Well, and it's also, accidents do happen. Don't put yourself in a position where an accident might get you severely hurt or killed. There's a lot to that. So and that's the thing that gets forgotten a lot of times, is that the guy who was driving that car and he was probably drunk, he's responsible for an awful lot of what happened there. So it's a good point to bring up. We did miss some supers. Did you highlight them? Did I miss them?
I know we just got this one.
Yeah. Whoops.
Teamwork, man.
Yeah.
Highlight it, and then you come on, man.
I know. I'm on the thing too. I know Brent gave a $10 super with no comment. And that's why I didn't really highlight it, because Brent's always here. Always appreciate it. There it is. Oh,
we're not doing well here.
All right. You're in charge. You can do it.
That's the worst thing that could ever happen.
There was another one from someone who's kind of a new person. Very early on gave $2. Drew. Oh, he had a thing. I hated training days on my days off with no WLB. Do you know what WLB means?
I don't.
Maybe he can leave another comment.
Linebacker?
I don't think that's a thing.
Okay.
going back up.
But accidents do happen. I exist. I feel that too. I'm also an accident. Good sir.
So are all your kids. Well, maybe not all of them.
Well, I'm a
Are any of
virgin,
them?
so
All right, that's right. So you're never mind. We'll just leave that one.
well, yeah, low hanging fruit. I mean, it's just the thing to kind of go back to that video is you said something that kind of resonated with me. It doesn't pass the eye test.
Oh, Viper's got it. Work-life balance.
There you go.
He's smarter than both of us. Everybody does. Holy crap. Why do you guys all know this term? I've never heard it in my life.
You know, it's tough because there's so many factors that go into these types of things. But at the end of the day, you're a cop, right? You have to be the higher standard. And yeah, you're hyped up and this dude ran from you and you want to beat his ass. That's not what we get paid to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like there's a couple that I remember distinctly. One was a kid, I'll say his first name was Jesse. He was a juvenile and he was a prolific car thief back in like 2014, 2015. That back before Kias were getting stolen all the time, Chryslers were getting stolen all the time. Did you guys have that out in Colorado? The Chrysler minivan stolen craze?
No, we got the Kias and the Hondas and
yeah. No, the thing about how the Kias are easy to steal now, the Chryslers were back in almost 10 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And he would literally steal one, drive across town, get it stuck in the mud, steal one, drive it back. I mean, he was stealing 10, 15 cars a week. I personally caught him in stolen cars 3 times in a 2-week period because they don't hold juveniles. He was like 17, I think 16 or 17, stealing cars like mad. He was really short. We could tell what cars he was stealing because the seat was always pushed all the way up. And one night, one of our plane cars got on the air and he's like, "Hey, I'm on this street. There's a guy in the car right now trying to steal it. Get me a cruiser." So I pulled up. They gave me a good description of the car. I pulled up, put my front bumper on the driver's side door. I mean, I came flying up. I knew what car it was. Put my thing there. He looked out the window, tried to open the door, couldn't get it open. I was already out of the car, running around the passenger side trying to catch him. He jumped over the seats, took off running, but I was only like, I don't know, less than 10 yards behind him. He ran into a yard that was completely fenced in all the way around. And I knew that if it became a fence jumping game, he was going to win. So we were right on the fence line. I looked in the other yard. There's no fence in the other yard. It goes straight through the alley. So I ran straight through the other yard. Officers were in the alley shining lights over the fence. He was like, "Oh shit. I got to hop a fence now." So he hopped the fence directly in front of me. And it was like a spring night with the grass was like nice and slick. He literally hit the ground, slid, put his hands out and said, "Don't tase me. I just pissed my pants." And I wanted to pummel him so bad, but I didn't. You know, he got a little bit of a knee in the small of his back for physical control. And I called for his hands. He gave me his hands. It was it. I was very emotional about getting my hands on him, especially because I had just arrested him a few days prior to that for stealing a car. That particular one, it was kind of funny. He ran and we had officers in the alley. We had the whole area cordoned off and he disappeared. And we started searching the area and my sergeant at the time actually stuck his flashlight down into a big tube of old tires. He had climbed up and was standing inside this thing of tires. Like
a fucking cartoon.
Yeah, it was. We were walking around him for like 15 minutes. He had to be sitting there listening to us. We're like, "Oh, he's long gone. I don't know where he went." And then we found him and he got ripped out of there pretty good. But yeah, you can't let your emotions take control of the situation. So
I'm not going to highlight it, but the very free thinker, and he's very free thinker because he tells us he's a free thinker, was talking about unions and stuff. And God, everybody loves unions except if cops have them. God forbid cops have protections from employers.
They make sure that their employer follows the employment contract. That's what the union does. It's a contract.
media has it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, people like have this like big belief on how like it's all this big, monster and everything's all connected. It's not. Yeah, there's some police agencies that drop the ball, and we're talking about that.
Yeah.
There's some cops that suck, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I know it's fucking cliche, but 99% of cops just want to help their community out and protect the rights of people. So, I don't know, just calm down, man. Take a breather. Get off the hot pockets.
Thank you, Dixie, for hitting us up again. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Yeah, and like somebody mentioned it earlier. I'm not going to say his name again, but like, people are like, oh, I could give you thousands of videos. Sure. You can cherry pick videos over the last 20 or 30 years and keep showing me incidents, but you're rehashing the same things over and over again. Just like locally, I got in an argument with a guy on Facebook the other day, and he was bringing up stuff that happened at my agency 7 years ago. It's like, you know what? We've changed since then. And that stupid fucking domestic violence study that is misquoted all the time.
Oh yeah.
It was 1994. 1994, it might as well have been 100 years ago. The world is not the same as it was back then. Police departments are not the same. Let's even forget about the fact that the study does not say what people are saying it said. If you have to go all the way back to 1994 and then tell me that you can't connect that dot, you need to stop. It's ignorant. It's stupid. It's foolish.
It's fun. It's fun though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's dramatically different from 2014 to today. The whole Ferguson thing had a dramatic effect on law enforcement. And then, obviously the, Minnesota one that's more recently completely changed the world. Everybody changed the way they're doing things. I don't know. I'm going to at least do a couple videos, and maybe we can do that on a live stream sometime. Talk about just the things that changed while we were police officers. When people are like, "Oh, they don't reform, they don't change." I can show you a handful of very specific instances that dramatically changed in the last few years. Your reform or your improvement of police departments doesn't have to come from the legislator. It does come from the police departments themselves. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that.
I wanted to address this comment real quick before we move on. Hey Lloyd, where's Lenny? As you can tell, it's green here. I'm on a spaceship. I don't know. I felt weird. I should have thought this out before I started doing the live streams, because I knew this thing was going to happen. And if I don't want to spoil it, if anybody's going to go back and listen to the podcast, but Lenny had a bad time on one of my episodes. And we'll just leave it at that. I don't know. Should I change it to Lloyd here? Should I stay Lenny? I don't know what you guys think. I don't really care.
I got no problem.
Like Larry, right? I don't know.
I do like Larry. I like Lenny too. I think the Ben and Lenny works. Ben and Larry works too.
Not Ben and Lloyd. Are you going to get annoyed at that? At every 6 months, I'm going to have a stupid new name.
No, it doesn't bother me.
Okay,
I enjoy it. But we talk a lot. You and I talk a lot more than these people do. You're only here once a week for them. You're in my dreams every night.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He looks like a Lenny. What does that mean?
I don't know what a Lenny looks like. Let's see.
I feel that, Drew. I feel that. Me too.
Oh, so you didn't think you were burned out when you were still in?
Oh, yeah. I guess I misread that, but I mean, I knew in and out.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, sure.
Is this a good video to go over?
Is this the officer slamming the head?
Yes.
So I guess we'll talk about it live. You mentioned people are trying to get his job back, but after watching the video, I think it was because of something else. But it's pretty horrendous police work. It's probably worth watching.
It is. But yeah, I was confused. I don't know if it's because the media didn't didn't put this report together well.
What's that
I don't,
supposed to
I
mean,
don't know
bro?
what that means either.
Come over and you find out.
Here, Nixie, have I been saying your name wrong? I'm gonna transition. I'm gonna pull up this tackle video because a lot of people have brought it up, and it was good. Here, I'm hijacking my own live stream.
I really want to play I didn't watch it. I want the Nothing Burger too. I think that might be fun.
Oh, it was so much nothing. We can.
Did we watch this one? Did you? Tell me about
No, I just posted this on YouTube. Yesterday, 2 days ago. So set up on this was there was a call of a stolen car actually from the city of Louisville that was GPS tracked to the city of Columbus. The person who owned the vehicle called Louisville Police Department, made a stolen vehicle report, and then they called Columbus Police Department and said, "Hey, I know where my car is. Can you guys go get it?" This person had been calling in all day, and the vehicle was never where they said it was going to be. On this particular location, the vehicle was where it was supposed to be, and it happens fast. Louisville, Kentucky, who stated he GPS tracked his stolen vehicle to this location. Voice. The officers arrived on scene, observed on exiting the driver's seat of the stolen vehicle.
Thanks, Nixie, by the way.
Made contact with this man, who decided to run. This man was apprehended a very short time later. Oh, Donna, placed under arrest for receiving stolen property. Donna's almost always the first
it looks
comment.
like it's got a temp tag, but not the temp tag listed.
Look at her
on the,
keyboard.
I can't tell. Make it bigger again.
Listen. All right, I'll.
Okay, I got that from the bin.
Oh, nice.
Run, so it could be wrong.
Hold up, guys.
So this officer is a fantastic officer. You can tell by the voice it's a female. She's small. She's only like 5'5", 140 pounds. She's a little bit older. She has gray hair. Her approach to I do have her number. She's a good friend of mine. Her approach to situations is very calm. She wins a lot of people over. You can actually sneak up on people directly in front of them on many, many occasions by not acting like you're trying to grab onto them. That's kind of her approach here. I have a very similar approach.
Is that your car, bud? No?
Oh, I've seen this one.
Stand
Okay.
there. Whose car is that?
I don't know.
You were sitting in the driver's seat.
Listen. I swear I was. Wait, I wouldn't see the driver's seat.
No.
I didn't do it.
Stay down. Stay on the ground, man.
Okay.
So this, I think, is a good example of having a appropriate use of force and then remaining calm after the use of force, giving clear instructions to your suspect and putting them under arrest without unnecessary screaming and uses of force, I guess.
No. Just relax.
Stay down. Stay on the ground, man.
Give me your hands. Stop it.
Stop it.
Give me your hands. That's not my car.
We'll talk to you in a minute. Give me your hands.
Okay, wait, my shoulder's fucked up. My shoulder's fucked up. Peripheral. About peripheral. This is
For real.
Yeah.
It's not my car.
Can I point this out? Because this is one thing that a lot of people don't notice. The technique for getting his arm out from under him. A lot of people that might not have appropriate training, I will 100% attribute this to good training, not to something that this particular officer in this video, who shall not be named, it's not that he's a particularly skilled officer, it's that he has good training from good people. So when someone's got their hands tucked up under them, if you just are grabbing their hands and trying to rip them out, you're going to fail a lot of the time. But if you grab, I'm pointing with my hand, if you grab around their tricep above the elbow and then you grab their wrist with your other hand, you can use that pressure and angle to bring their hand out, and it pops out a lot easier.
Let's show for the peripheral. Peripheral, belt peripheral.
Right there.
This side, make it.
See, he had no choice.
I think you should have just punched. I think people should just punch the off.
Just start dropping bombs.
Just start dropping bombs, dude.
It's not my car, bro.
The thing is, that hurts me too.
Give me your hand.
See that? Maintaining control of the hand and the handcuff. This officer has excellent training.
Get off the wood. We need to cross. I think I said that backwards.
You know it's not yours.
A little too much whiskey.
Roll over here and you.
So right there, he has a giant pack of socks stuffed in the front of his shorts.
You're not supposed to do that?
There's his bulge. Yeah. And then there's more to this that I can't. There's more details that I just can't talk about. So it is what it is.
Will you tell that officer thanks for his service?
I will. I will tell him thanks for his service. You know, it was funny. I don't know if this is a good time to go in the comments. I don't have them organized. There was one guy that commented, was like, that officer is a fucking moron. He told the suspect, you better not have got my shirt dirty. What a dumb fuck officer. He shouldn't have a job. And I'm like, man, people just do not appreciate a good low-key dig anymore. You know?
Can't win.
No.
You cannot win.
Like,
you can't win.
Like, you know,
the officer did a great job. He didn't beat the guy up. He didn't pummel him. No one got hurt. Everybody's a damn critic.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta find something. Find something. All these free thinkers out here, free thoughts. We're gonna find something.
It was funny. So some of my favorite low-key digs. I might yell at somebody for making me chase them. I'll say, hey, dumbass, why did you make me run? Now that guy might not like that. He might comment, that officer's a dumbass. If he didn't want to run, he shouldn't have become a cop. For God's sake, let me joke a little bit with people, you know?
Nobody understands comedy anymore.
No, comedy is not allowed. Not allowed at all.
Humanize the badge.
Yeah, fuck that.
Be a robot. Be a robot.
Yes. I mean, if you're not out there doing dancing TikTok videos and getting your fingernails painted and posting it on Facebook, then you're not the kind of cop we want. So, Nikki, thank you very much. Thank you for being you. I think that's for you, Lenny.
Me?
Yeah, she likes you.
Oh, I'm blushing. Thanks, Nikki.
So now we're transitioning to something completely different. I forget how I found this. Yes, jokes are illegal. So dumb. Which it's another thing that I can't really go into great detail about, but if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, Dexter Pitts is a legend. I love this man.
You need to introduce me to him. You talk about him all the time. I'm getting a little jealous.
Well, Dex is a busy man. He's been trying to get me to collaborate with him. I think that he needs to do your podcast first.
He does.
He does.
Coming up.
Yeah. So Dex, get a hold of Lenny. If you need his number, I think I can give you his number. Right?
Yeah.
You trust him? Yeah.
I trust you.
I'll give you his phone number.
75309.
Get with Lenny.
To everyone that got that joke.
He has an excellent podcast. He's better at it than me. And then we'll figure out our other collaborations.
I think, by the way, I think I know what this refers to, and I thought I did. I apologize. It was good. Just saying.
What? The Lenny used my memes from...
I stole a format.
Oh, I don't think that's the same guy.
Okay. Well, then I don't know what you're talking about.
No, unless he has a really different YouTube thing. But the guy who made that meme for me is actually I think he went out on a medical from my department. I never knew him. but you know, he's a good dude. He sends me messages and he's active on Facebook. So it's good stuff. And he always posts memes in my comments that nobody sees. So I decided to start stealing them because that last one was hilarious. The one with the nurse where it's like nurses want to watch Columbus Police body camera. That was funny. My wife didn't think it was as funny, but I thought it was funny.
I've made some memes, inappropriate memes that people take the wrong way. It's jokes, folks. Okay, calm down.
Yeah. I do have your resume and I need to get a hold of you. I've got a couple other people too. It's just, for one, I suck at this.
I take up a lot of the time. I'm needy.
No, I also, whenever I have free time, I go and do projects. Like today, I drove around looking for homeless people to talk to. So you're on my list. I promise. It's something I really want to do. I think it'd be cool to bring in like retired officers on the live stream occasionally. I think we can do threesomes on here. We did it with my wife. Remember?
Say no more. That was a fun threesome with your wife. I'm just leave that there. I saw this fella asked us earlier about the encryption, and I'm not sure if it was something I've said before or not.
I think he just likes this question. I think he's asked me before too.
I like the ability for the people. I like listening to the scanners every once in a while. It's interesting. I think there's an officer safety element to it too. God forbid there's a major incident and you don't want, let's just say like a school shooting or something. You don't want the shooter to have your radio channels to be able to know, coordinating movements and stuff. That's why I like the encrypted channels. That's my personal opinion.
So that is the same guy, just so we know. Now I know, and I will remember that name. Something else to think about with the encrypted channels and scanners and stuff like that. I know that there's a lot of people that like listening to scanners, and it's frustrating when departments go encrypted. But like there was a moment years ago when I was working plainclothes, back when, hold on to your hats for a second, guys. We're going to go full screen. I want you to imagine, if you can close your eyes and imagine with me for a moment, imagine back in a time when police departments were funded and actually had staff, because that's the fantasy world that we're going to go to for a moment. I know the precinct that I worked when we actually had staffing, plus nobody injured. We actually had 11 guys that were assigned and able to work. We had we don't have that van anymore, so I can talk about it. We had like a gold Kia minivan that we use as a plane car, and we would put an officer, 2 officers in it if we could, and they would drive around and spot things for the other officers. And I did it a lot because I was a little bit older than a lot of the other officers. I was already in my late 30s, and most of the other officers were in their early to mid 20s still. The only reason that's relevant is because when you're a new officer in your early to mid 20s, you can't sit still. In order to work in plainclothes, you have to be able to sit still and basically not do anything for like 6 hours if it's necessary. So me being the old guy with the bad back and the bad knees, I took that role on for myself. I took one for the team. And I used to get into all kinds of shit. I remember one night I drove by and I saw people, it looked like they were scoping out a garage to break into it. So I parked the van and I walked up to get an angle on them. And I wore like a concealed radio set. And as I'm walking to get a better angle on him, some guy walks straight up to me, and I've got my gun and everything on me. She can't tell it's there. And he was trying to buy dope from me. He goes, "Dude, you got any hard or any tar?" And I was like,
"Dude, you're not supposed to tell people about that. It was a dark day in my life." Okay.
Yeah, right. It was in an alley, and I was dumbfounded. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I still had this mustache. Actually, the mustache was bigger back then, and yeah, it was smaller than yours currently. But I was absolutely fucking astounded. I couldn't believe that somebody tried to buy dope off of me. I didn't look like a dope dealer, and I didn't look like a user. I don't know, and I didn't know what to say. I just said, "No, everybody I know is out," and he was like, "Oh, everyone you know is out," and I'm like, "Yeah, they're all out, bro." He's like, "Okay," and then he took off. But I think he was actually trying to rob me, because he had his hands in his pockets and he looked like he had something in his hands. I think he was sizing me up for a robbery. Like after the fact, that's what I think was going on. And maybe my response made him believe that that I was a cop. So he ended up moving on. But I went and by the time I got back over there, the dudes that were scoping this garage had left. But I started calling my buddies. I'm like, hey, there's a lot of activity going on out here. Is anybody clear? Can somebody come up? And everybody that I'm calling, they're like, no, we're all busy. And it was back before. Now I can pull up my phone. I can see where everybody is, but I couldn't do that back then. So I was literally calling every single officer that was working. They were all tied up. And I'm like, well, I'll just go do what I can do. And that same night I went, and there's a guy, he had it was a vehicle that you could not miss. It was a particular color. It was a very large vehicle, very large SUV. There's not very many of them around. And it had personalized plates that had literally his name on the license plate. I saw his vehicle parked in an alley and I'm like, that's weird at this hour and it's not near his house. So I parked the van and I walked kind of up the alley. I didn't get close enough to see exactly what they were doing, but I could tell they were being sneaky. They had the doors to the SUV open and they had this garage of a vacant house that the door was open and they were putting stuff in the garage. I knew that he had done some commercial burglaries recently because the word on the street was that he was selling like a lot of like tennis shoes and stuff like that. And some of the department stores have been broken into. So I assumed that he was unloading maybe stolen tennis shoes and stuff and put him in a garage for safekeeping. Calling everybody, nobody's available on my precinct. So I had to go to the rest of the zone. I didn't know everybody that was working that night. So I had to get my walkie out. I got on my walkie and I said, this is special car, whatever. I've got suspects, and I aired the description of the vehicle without giving the tag because I didn't want to completely give it away. And a location. I said, they're messing around near a garage. I need a couple cruisers over here. As soon as I aired that, they freaking slammed that garage door, jumped in the vehicle and took off. And I had to run back to the van, try to get in it. I wasn't able to get them. I ended up airing their license plate, airing their address because their address is known to us, and aired all the information I had. But they got away. The reason they got away is because they were listening to a scanner. That was kind of the moral of that whole story. So there is good reason to have encrypted channels. It sucks that regular civilians can't sit and listen, to us because I know it's interesting and all that stuff. But there's good reason for some of that stuff. So
I'm gonna give credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
free thinker and your free thoughts. We appreciate you. Thanks for your service.
He's one of those people that sometimes his comments are so off the wall, but then he'll say something really nice. And I'm just like, God, good thing I didn't excoriate him. Because sometimes, and an interesting thing about my channel, because I do go off on people. I've actually had people say, hey man, I was kidding. And I'll write back. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry that I went off on you. And they're like, yeah,
on the internet, right?
Yeah. And they're like, oh, no problem, man. Like, I love your channel. I'm like, man, thank God. Cause like, I wouldn't take it that way. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, fuck you. Like, don't talk to me that way.
I can see he's a Red Wings fan. Would like to remind him who the Stanley Cup champions are. Colorado Avalanche. No big deal. You mentioned
I don't watch baseball.
Yeah, I like football. I like sports ball, all the sports ball. But the undercover thing, the plain clothes thing. I have a story. It's not my story. It's a legend. Do you mind if I tell?
Yeah.
So I only tell this story because I think it's hilarious and I think it's probably true. But
I just want to note that this John Bryan, someone I need to look up.
So there's a guy that if you looked at him, you'd think he was just like a suburban dad, but he was like a hardcore cop. And I heard a story that, years before I started, like years and years, mid-90s, he would walk around the bad neighborhoods in a trench coat. He would watch hand-to-hands.
As in, like when he's on duty?
Yes.
Okay.
He would watch them, and then he would take his trench coat off and arrest them. And the supervision did not like that very much. But I'm like, that's some fucking hardcore policing right there.
Is that when you were on? Like during? Oh, okay.
This was years. His soul had been beaten down.
Yeah.
And, because of getting in trouble so much. But I
Yeah.
was like, that's innovative police work.
It is. Still say everybody to drop my name. Man, did I drop your real name in a live stream a while back? I'm not going to go back and watch, so it doesn't matter. You know what's funny? When I came on, so I came on in 2011, we still had officers because we have like long black raincoats. Even in the summertime, officers would put on their long black raincoat, hide in the bushes with a pair of binoculars, and like watch the back door of a dope house and call stuff out. So we didn't go the full on like take off the trench coat and go arrest somebody, but that stuff was still happening just a couple years ago.
The good old days.
Just not anymore. Like
You know,
those
it's
officers
funny.
aren't doing that.
I'm sure we'll do a a live stream on how much things have changed, but it is funny. I remember, 2016, 2017, 2018, Duncan, job's dead. Everything sucks. We had any idea what was about to happen.
Yeah.
It really wasn't that bad.
The biggest power grab in the history of ever. That's what it was.
I mean, there were some pretty bad power grabs in the 40s, but
I don't.
We don't need to get into world.
I'm not going to make the comparison.
Yeah. Are we gonna play the video of the guy?
Yeah, we can do that because this is like very different, right? This whole video is very different. This is a news broadcast, and maybe because admittedly, I watched it when my wife was talking to me, so I might have missed some things, but he was fired for excessive force and had multiple excessive force complaints. It's about it. And there's like a good video of him using too much force. The one thing let's watch the video and then I'll comment on it. It's only 2 minutes, right?
Yeah. And never mind. There was a joke, but I'm going to leave it there. Yes.
A rough arrest, leaving a veteran BSO deputy out of a job.
And tonight we are seeing video from his own body camera that led to his firing. Local 10's Hatzavella is live outside BSO headquarters to show us exactly what happened. Hatzel.
Calvin, the video you're about to see, the sheriff says shows excessive force, and he says it cannot be tolerated.
It want you. Bro, come on, bro. Get off me, bro.
April 2020, North Lauderdale. The body-worn camera shows the conflict. The man is trying to get away.
I'm gonna shoot you. Get on the ground.
Deputy Ronald Thurston gets the man to comply. The sheriff says at that point, Thurston had every opportunity to de-escalate the situation, yet he chose not to. Thurston kept his knee on the man's neck, even after he expressed discomfort and asked Thurston to remove his knee.
I wanted to kind of break this one up a little bit. Is that all right? You're still muted. Lenny, unmute your mic. You're supposed to be professional.
I'm a professional. I wanted to just give a big shout out to RC and Casey because he seems like he really likes me a whole lot. So you're welcome for my service, buddy.
Good for you. He's been around forever. Always been commenting on my stuff. Good dude. So
he hates me apparently.
This
what I did to him. Jeez, Pete.
This particular video. So I was watching it. And they're talking about how an officer gets fired for an excessive use of force. And they start talking about this knee on the neck thing. This was in April of 2020. This is a month before George Floyd, right? Because at least I know that the riot started in May 28th, 2020 was the first day of the riots. I'm assuming George Floyd was like 2 or 3 days before that. So this is a month before that. Yeah. And when I watched this, I didn't see a huge problem with his force, because you have a guy who we don't know what he was being arrested for, but he was definitely resisting arrest. And then the officer had him on the ground, sure, he's straddled there, but it wasn't, I don't know how long it was. I didn't see a huge problem with that. So it kind of made me laugh because I'm watching this video. I'm like, okay, where's the problem? Like, Are you tracking with me so far?
Yeah, there was a point. I want to watch more of the video because
Yeah, well, I want to go to the next part because then I'm like, now I get it. But
yeah, because you watch that and you're like, yeah, he's straddling him, right? But yeah,
I'm like, where's the part where he gets fired? So now we're going to talk. This is the guy who was resisting arrest. It's kind of comical. It's like your traditional, okay, do you think he used too much force? Well, yes, the officer used too much force against me. I was just on my way home from church and I was going to get some muffins for my grandmother.
The officer used too much force on you.
Of course.
This is Isaiah Darcis, the man seen in the video, who tells us the deputy violated policy. The sheriff agrees and tells us his actions were egregious and do not reflect our agency's training and de-escalation tactics. His actions show that he possesses neither the temperament nor the decision-making ability to wear a badge and carry a gun.
So still, I'm like, okay, he had the guy on the ground a little bit. The guy was definitely resisting arrest. I don't see the problem here. Like, okay, he had him in for years before George Floyd. Even we were trained that you don't leave somebody prone down on the ground on their belly for an extended period of time. You don't.
That shit drives me nuts. By the way, that we still see that shit. Like that is old information. Handcuff him, get him in the rescue position. Get him off their side
as soon as you can. Now the video that we saw, we only saw 2 seconds of him on the guy's back. Okay, there's nothing there that's a problem as far as I'm concerned. And then they go through this whole thing about he didn't de-escalate. Okay, I'm sorry, but if you tell someone that they're under arrest and they pull away from you and you grab onto their arm, the de-escalation occurs when you put them on the ground and you put them in handcuffs. The whole time I'm just like, what is the problem? And then I think we're going to see it pretty soon after.
Back to the video. After backup arrives, the man is cuffed. The gun he had been removed, but the sheriff says Thurston slams the man's head into a BSO car.
It definitely does something to a man to see himself.
What are you doing, dude?
The sheriff's office released Thurston's entire...
It's one of those things. I'm just like, okay, everything's fine here. What's the problem? And then all of a sudden he's like, whack. Like, oh, bro.
That's fucking roughing a passer, man.
Oh, that, and I guess the guy was a cop for 20 years. Good, God bless him for still being out there hustling, actually fighting people to the ground. The guy had a weapon on him, which they just kind of breezed over in the video. But yeah, the suspect was armed and they had a good use of force on him. Everything was great. But then like that guy, yes, he seemed calm before that too. He just out of nowhere went and did that.
But it goes back to the question, right? The question that was asked early on in the podcast is, you make a mistake, can you never be a cop again? We can all look at this, say that was a huge mistake. What was the rest of his career like?
Then they say he had a couple of excessive force complaints. Oof.
But were they sustained?
I think so.
The sheriff's office released Thurston's entire work record, which shows some previous disciplinary action. In June of 2020, protesters at BSO headquarters demanded Thurston be put back on patrol. Thurston, who's been on the force for more than 20 years, had been suspended for criticizing
him back on the job after that.
What's that?
You were right. I misread I misinterpreted the video, but
yeah,
you said this happened in April and this was in June. People wanted him back on the job, but they did mention that he was suspended for something later in the video for like talking against the sheriff or something.
Yeah, they were talking right when you started chiming in. He said that he had been outspoken, saying that the department lacked diversity. And this is literally right in the pocket of the George Floyd stuff.
Put back on patrol. Thurston, who's been on the force for more than 20 years, had been suspended for criticizing the department's lack of diversity.
How do you get suspended for criticizing lack of diversity?
See, this is a whole nother rant about the news. Because they just say this shit and there's no context behind it. Like what actually happened. I've watched this video 3 times now. So was it because he slammed the dude's head against the car? Was it because of this lack of diversity? Did he say the department had a lack of diversity after he got in this use of force, and that's why he was in trouble? Like, that's why he's getting... That's the problem with media, is it just all of a sudden you have these like 2-minute segments on an hour-long incident. And I've talked about it on my podcast where there was things that I was directly involved in. You read the news article, you read the police reports, they conflict. And so and we were going to kind of talk about this, but it didn't really come up, is just because something's in a lawsuit doesn't mean it's fact. Just because something's in the news doesn't mean it's fact.
That is something I'm definitely going to point out when I talk about the Supreme Court cases where it says that officers don't have a duty to protect that thing. That's the ruling is completely misinterpreted. But the other thing that people are going off of is they're basing their opinion based on the statement made by the attorney filing the lawsuit, which is definitely going to make it sound like the police did everything wrong. You know what I mean? And completely were derelict of their duties, whatever. And people just take that as gospel. What's this one?
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. And I would just advise people, if you listen to my podcast and I say something, you go do your own independent research. Make sure I'm not full of shit. It's the same thing with the news. Is you can't take it as gospel, and that's it sucks, but it's true, right? Yeah, and I know 556 is mocking me here, but as it should. I know it's a big surprise, right? The media lies, but they sell advertisements. That's what the media does.
Well, and there's also, they literally don't know what they're talking about. Like, especially when it comes to like police type stuff. That's what you were talking about. I've been on a scene and then I've seen the news report about it and it was completely wrong. They literally have zero information. All they know is that police are here. There was a shooting and they need to make a story. So they fill in their own fictitious blanks. You know what I mean?
What's the thing you do with your kids when you go camping? What's that game? You write in like the adjectives, the verbs. Mad Libs.
Mad Libs. Yeah.
That's what the news is. The news is Mad Libs.
Yeah. And they have to be careful that they can only state verified facts. And we don't give out information on the scene of shootings and high profile incidents and stuff like that. The facts don't come out till later, so they have to print with what they have, which is basically nothing, and try to draw a line between the points, and it's just not right. Some people were asking me about an incident that happened yesterday in my jurisdiction, and I was like, yeah, the information that you have is completely wrong. And I know for a fact it's because the agency that is putting out that information is being extremely tight-lipped. It is what it is. The media still has to report about it. It's a big deal. Donna, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out. She literally, I posted my videos go live at 5:30 in the morning. She's always like the first or second comment. So I believe her that she gets up at 4. What else was there? Did you want to go on any further on that particular video? Because I kind of made it go away.
No, I don't know. I don't know how many cops are watching this, but you just can't. Don't be a notch in the belt, right? Some guys. I'm assuming that head slam came from something he said that we didn't hear, or the news media.
Yeah.
Don't. You got to be the bigger person there, right?
It probably was one of those things where he was like, "You're nothing but a bitch," and dude was like, "Really?" Whack. Like, oh, it's so frustrating.
I'm gonna make a little drinky poo here.
What are you making? Is that your stuff?
I got some whiskey. My brother left me.
Is it good?
It's Kirkland whiskey. He left it because I make fun of his Kirkland whiskey.
Oh, I never heard it.
Comes from Costco. My brother
is
he's a suburban dad and he won't admit it. But that's okay.
That's funny. So he can't drink it straight like a man?
Like a man. I mean,
Can you?
I just put soda in it. So
I know. As I said that.
Shut your fucking mouth.
Oh, I poured a really strong one tonight. It's hitting me hard.
Well, I've had a couple drinks and then I cracked open the latte. Freethinker, was kind of a douche, but he was kind of cool at the end. I'm really curious about his video though, because you said it was a nothing burger. So I kind of want to watch it if it's not a pain in the ass for you to pull up.
No, it's actually not. Let me remember how to use YouTube.
I believe in you.
Go to my channel.
So everybody, he has Pornhub up right now. It's what?
Let me see. I don't think I replied to it. Here it is. Genuinely excited about your live stream. Okay, that's not the one. Oh, he made a bunch of comments. I didn't see it. I didn't see them all. Where's that freaking video?
It's funny. I saw a bunch of them, but I did not see the video. You had me at nothing burger, so I gotta watch it.
Well, it was all about this officer that was fired after being involved in 2 shootings, and he commented. He's like, "Here's one where an officer was fired after being involved in 2 shootings and something else," and there was literally nothing in the story that would make me believe the officer should have been fired, and the shootings all sounded completely justified. Here, I'm going to pull up my thing on my phone here. I'm going to be super professional YouTuber here.
That's right. Everybody just stare at the mustache for a little bit while he gets that thing going.
Where's my content? And there's that. Comments. Because sometimes if people post links in the comments, YouTube is like, hey, that's not okay. So they'll delete them. Oh, yeah, it was 1 day ago. Freethinker. Let me find it here. I don't know why it's not showing up.
I got to put up the Christmas lights, man. That's going to happen soon.
We did ours right on Thanksgiving.
I'm one of those people that I'm like, let's have Thanksgiving and then let's do Christmas, right? But it's a lot of work to put the lights up. So you got to do it pretty close to Thanksgiving, I think. So you get the whole time frame,
Yeah, plus, I mean, the weather was kind of nice and it was going to get way colder. Here, I emailed it to myself. We're done with the links, right, from the email? Oh, yeah, that other one that I sent you, we might need to dedicate a whole live stream to it.
Which one was that?
Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really look into that too much. So.
Oh God. Well, we're already 2 hours in, so.
I forgot. You know what? I mean, I wouldn't be opposed because it's so good. But maybe we could. That could be like the teaser. We could talk about Cleveland next week.
All right.
It's so fucking bad.
We can. So you did watch it, right?
I did. I'm like, what? What is this? What did I just watch?
All right, let me see. I'm trying to figure out how to make this share. This
Come
one.
on,
So this
man.
is
Professional.
It's out of California. It's a 3-minute and 48-second video about an officer that was fired, and we'll talk about it.
C7 News. A former Vallejo police officer involved in 2 fatal shootings and fired for unsafe conduct now has a new job. He's been hired by another local police department.
ABC 7 News I-Team reporter Melanie Woodrow has this story that you're going to see only here on 7, and we do want to warn you some of the footage in this story could be difficult to watch.
Fired Vallejo police officer Ryan McMahon, seen here in a deposition photo, is now working for the Broadmoor Police Department near Daly City.
It's a direct slap in the face.
Corey McCoy is Willie McCoy's brother. Officer McMahon was one of 6 Vallejo police officers who shot McCoy more than 50 times in a Taco Bell drive-thru in February 2019, killing him. In 2020, former Vallejo Police Chief Shawnee Williams fired McMahon for unsafe conduct and neglect for basic firearm safety that endangered fellow officers in connection with the shooting.
For someone to make a decision and find that it was okay to put this man back in that same position of power. I think it's disgraceful. I think it's irresponsible.
An independent special prosecutor hired by Solano County determined the officers felt their lives were threatened and acted in self-defense. In 2018, Officer McMahon shot and killed Ronell Foster after stopping Foster for not having a light on his bicycle. In a settlement, the city of Vallejo paid Foster's family $5.7 million. The Solano County District Attorney did not file criminal charges against McMahon, finding that it was reasonable for him to defend himself and noting that Foster assaulted McMahon with his flashlight while resisting arrest. Angela Sullivan is Foster's aunt.
It's disgusting. It's heartbreaking.
In an emailed statement to the I-Team, Broadmoor Police Department writes in part, a thorough investigation of Officer McMahon's background was completed by a background investigator with more than 20 years of civilian and high-level military law enforcement and background investigations experience. No applicant to the Broadmoor Police Department would be hired if any disqualifying information is received or uncovered.
It doesn't surprise me. That's what they do with all the rejects. They just send them from one town to the other.
All right. So that is the discussion of everything that they showed on the video for this officer. They talked about, I got to get this woman's face off my screen. They talked about how he had been involved in 2 shootings. One of the shootings, it was like 6 officers fired 50 rounds and shot and killed somebody. The other shooting that he was involved in was where a suspect assaulted him with a flashlight and he ended up using deadly force. I don't know what kind of flashlight it was, but there's a lot of flashlights that can be considered deadly force. If you come at me swinging a mag light at my head and I shoot you, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be cleared all day long. That, as far as the officer have killing 2 people, there was literally nothing in that video that I had a problem with. Like, did you see anything, Lenny, that stood out?
No, I mean, it's
without knowing greater detail about the shootings.
Without knowing anything else, and it kind of harkens back to everything we've been talking about today. So the guy got fired because of some policy violations. It sounds like,
yeah.
On
that and it said unsafe, but they didn't say what was unsafe.
Yeah, what was, I don't know if he had a bad backdrop or whatever, but I wanted to talk about this and I didn't earlier. And hopefully with all the alcohol I have in me, I can make some
but I wanted to expand on what they covered next in the video, if I could, without having to watch it. So the shootings themselves, I didn't see, there was nothing in the news report that made me believe, hey, this guy should be fired, safety violations. Okay. I get it. But there was nothing there for me to see. So the video itself didn't have anything. The next point that they went on to is that these guys, I don't know if they were deputies or officers, but they had a star-shaped badge, and everyone had it was like a rite of passage that if you were in an officer-involved shooting, you took one of the points of your star and you bent it over. And he had 2 of the points on his star bent over. The allegation was that they were using it as a bounty system, saying that if you get 5 points on your star, you win like a prize. What the union president said was that this is something that the officers do to kind of remember that they were in a significant traumatic event, that they bend over one of their stars. I'm aware of other things where officers are given a certain pin on some departments that kind of signify, hey, look, you've been through hell and back. Like, here's a pin that you're going to wear in your uniform.
I got one of those.
Yeah, I think that's similar to the badge bending thing. And they made a big point about it in the video later, talking to the prosecutor and all this other stuff. And the prosecutor was like, we're not going to investigate and think about criminally charging people for some kind of ritual that's not criminal in nature. And they made it sound like this guy was out there executing people, but he's been cleared in his shootings. And one of them, he was one of 5 officers that fired. And the other one, he was hit in the head with a flashlight. So I don't know. That's why I thought this was kind of a nothing burger.
Well, the bending the badge thing, I've heard about that before. I guess my thought on it is, if it's what they're saying it is, then whatever. But I think it's probably one of those things where I've heard the same thing, like guys bend their fucking badge after being in an OIS. Maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe that's a bad.
Well, and it might be like a pre-internet thing that is a holdover that maybe we need to let go.
Yes. So I'm not gonna like judge the dude based on that without really knowing a whole lot about it. But it's one of those things. It's like the guys get the Punishers on their guns and shit. It's like
that is another level.
This is a different level, but maybe it's a bad look, right? Let's just maybe something to let go. Maybe get a pin on your uniform like everybody else, But I did want to talk about, if you don't mind,
Mm-hmm.
the whole. So let's say this guy fucked up on his call, right? He violated a policy and got fired for it. I don't think I've ever been fired from a job. I've probably done stuff on jobs that I could be fired for. We talk a whole lot about, how often, like I have family members that did time for felonies, and they are contributing members of society. You have people, let's say some kid does an armed robbery at 18, does 10 years, a very violent crime. He does his time, he comes out. We all want him to be successful, right? So can we look at this objectively for cops? Like, this guy was cleared of all his shootings. He violated a policy, but he didn't violate a law. Do we not believe in second chances when it comes for cops? I think it just depends on what it is. This particular thing, it's a hit piece.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And it was just like, find better examples. Like you can cherry pick. What year was that? I already closed the window. I don't know if it says it in the description. Yeah, but you can cherry pick across the entire nation, and you can find things that officers did wrong. I'm never going to deny that officers are going to fuck up. It's a very dangerous job. It's a very difficult job. Decisions are hard sometimes, and mistakes are going to happen. But we're also along the same lines. We're told, just because he has 8 felonious assaults where he shot people in the past, doesn't mean he's a bad guy. Like, don't judge him on that. Just because he spent his entire adult life dealing drugs, raping women, and shooting people, he's not a bad guy. He already did his time for that. We need to forgive him. But if it's a police officer and you've had multiple shootings that were completely justified and you were cleared on, for some reason that guy is a bad guy. But there's a segment of the population that believes that any officer who's involved in a shooting should not be allowed to be a police officer again. It's like the almost like you're permanently damaged from PTSD argument, and that's definitely not one that I support, because some of those officers that are involved in those critical incidents become the best officers and best examples for their fellow officers down the road.
And it's looking at it objectively, right? There may be an example of a guy that gets in a shooting and he can't go back. He's not the same person. We all handle things differently. But you're right. We can't. Everything's different. A case-by-case basis, right? You have to look at the facts of every single case before you can make these broad paintbrush decisions on stuff. We watched the same video with the thing with the guy that went to Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw some things. I'm like, well, if he's reaching for a knife, shit happens, right? You say, well, we all look at these things differently, but we're looking at it 2 years later, very calmly sipping whiskey on a live stream, right?
True.
We weren't just in the pursuit. Maybe they did screw up. Maybe it wasn't a great use of force on all of these things, but we have to, I think, objectively look at this stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like if somebody's a hothead and is going to violate people's rights, they don't need to be a cop.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not saying that at all, but people are human and they will make mistakes. And I think we need to be objective about it.
Yeah. There's also something that I've seen, because I post videos of officers' body cameras, is let's just say that there's one officer that's been on my body camera channel more than any other officer. This officer has a lot of fans on the body camera channel. People are always excited when one of this officer's videos come up. He has a reputation for having a big heart, being really nice to people, treating people with respect. Occasionally, there'll be a video with this particular officer who's yelling at people, maybe even swearing at them. And I will see so many comments from people saying, this officer's a hothead. He shouldn't have a badge. He has no business being a police officer. And it's like, you're judging this guy's entire career on one interaction where maybe he was right, maybe he was wrong, but you're completely forgetting of all the, the people that he's saved and done all these nice things for. Almost every police officer that I know has a list of things like that. And also every police officer that I know has lost his cool in one way or another. That doesn't make you a bad cop, and it doesn't mean that you should never have a badge. And that's something that people do not understand. We forget that the people that are making these comments the majority of the time are the least educated and the loudest at the same time. And we shouldn't give them respect.
The empty can rattles the most.
Yeah. I'm big on, we need to stop giving them respect, but I'll address this. Officer Ling is a legend and a good friend of mine, and he has a video coming up very soon on the channel. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think it's next Tuesday. He had one of my fastest videos to 1 million, and it was the dumbest video. It was just a pickup truck gets stopped doing like 104 miles an hour on the freeway, and there was mud all over the truck, and that was in the thumbnail, so everybody watched it. Literally all he did is write this guy a speeding ticket, and it got like 3 million views. It's like the dumbest video ever. But I think it's because people expected, when they saw that speed, they expected the use of force, and it's like, nope. Do you want to close on the Cleveland thing?
Do we want to save that for next week?
You said you wanted to tease it.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know how to tease things. I can't even please my wife. Fuck.
So we're going to close out the live stream by showing this video, and we are not going to give our opinions on it tonight. Does that sound fair? This is a shooting out of Cleveland, Ohio. I'm not even going to give any facts. This is a video out of Cleveland where one officer shot another officer. Is that enough information, Lenny or Lloyd?
Well, it doesn't matter. You already said it.
Okay.
So I would give them less.
All right.
It's beautiful.
We're going to talk.
Horrendous.
It's a horrible video. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about it next week. There's actually, in this 2-minute and 30-second video, a lot to talk about. First little bit, there's no audio because of the 1-minute look back.
They're here.
What number did you say he's in?
4. My door's open.
He's got a gun?
4. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. He's got a gun. He's here. They're here.
Who are you talking to?
The fucking dispatch.
Oh, okay. Okay.
4. Come on. He's upstairs. They're here. Moose? Moose?
What's that?
The bathroom's behind us. The bathroom door. Right here, right here. Look back. Get back! Get back! Get back! Help! Shot fired! Hey, get in the car! Kill that! Shot fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! I repeat, we have shots fired! Kill that!
So there's the video. That is going to be the topic of next week's live stream. Are we going to do Thursday or Friday?
I think Thursdays from now on, if that works for everybody.
Yeah, Thursday works for me. Next Thursday, what's the date? We'll announce it now.
Math.
The 8th.
Yeah.
December the 8th.
Kill them!
It's gonna be a busy weekend for me. So next Thursday, December the 8th at 8 p.m. here, we're gonna be covering this video out of Cleveland, Ohio, where one officer shot. Well, it was an officer-involved shooting. Let's just leave it at that. Sound good?
Cleveland's gonna hate us after we did a whole podcast on Cleveland.
We did. we could cover. Well, we can't show video. We can't show Netflix on YouTube because that would be interesting to show some of that kind of stuff. But I don't know. We'll be back next Thursday, and that's what we're going to cover. And Michelle brought up a good point. Thanks to everyone for the super chats. They help out a lot. Particularly, I wanted to say something in the beginning of the live stream, but it's weird talking about that stuff for me. But these videos, particularly when we're talking about uses of force, these are going to be age restricted videos. So they're not going to get the views after the stream that we would like. And they're not going to be monetized. So there's going to be 0 ad revenue on them. So if you guys appreciate what we do, a little bit of help would be fantastic because we are, time is money. It is what it is. I hate to say that, but everybody kind of knows. So if you can help us out, it's greatly appreciated. Everyone that did help out, I do truly appreciate you. Once the stream is on regular YouTube, make sure you drop a like on it and a comment on it. It really helps more people find the channel and find out what we do. I think tonight's stream was awesome. I really had fun.
I did too. I was a little nervous because I was like, this is kind of a sensitive topic for people, but I thought a lot of the comments were good. We had a really good discussion on some of these things. So it was, I think
this was way more lively than last week's, and maybe it's because I'm feeling better, but there was a bigger crowd here. I enjoyed it. Mike, I'm sorry that you have a party next week. You should just quit your job and watch YouTube full time. You owe that to me. I'm going to say that.
I don't know you, Mike, but I'm going to say the same.
Yeah. He lives in one of those crazy states in like Oregon or Washington. William Moreland, that was not necessary, but we appreciate you very much. When I was asking for a little bit of help, I wasn't asking for everyone to give that much money. That's very kind of you. Really appreciate it. He's, I want to say retired police officer. Good guy. So I don't know. I'm just going to sit here and blubber. So it's probably a good, appropriate time for me to end the stream. Thank you. Awkward. It did get awkward. Mike, I know that Oregon rocks. I'm sure it does. It's a lovely state, but there's some really fucked up stuff going on there right now. And we've had that conversation. I don't know. That's why you're here, because we are somewhat like-minded. Mike, let's just say voting wise typically votes for the person that I don't vote for, but we have good conversations and I appreciate having it.
You know what? But that's what it's all about, right?
It is.
I really truly believe there's like 2 or 3 issues that divide people. And most of us, we want to live in safe, crime-free cities. We want all the same things. It's just a few of these things that cause some problems.
I think it's more that some things are being misrepresented. And party lines are being drawn about some things that are being misrepresented, and it's not fair. It's not fair to the people like Mike and the millions of other people that typically vote for the party he votes for that don't feel that way. And I do hear from them. A lot of them are newspaper reporters. They're very frustrated with what's going on right now. I don't know how to fix it. Like, we need more people that are going to be vocal and vote out those politicians, just like on the right too. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to name names, but we know who they are. There's certain people that need to disappear from the public sphere. That's all I'm going to say. And we all know who they are. We need each side needs to police their own. I don't know. It is what it is. I'm blubbering.
Can I blubber? Can I promote my stuff? Can I be that guy?
Yes. Yeah. No one's watching
I made
anymore.
police memes on Instagram and Facebook. I make terrible memes. Hopefully make you giggle a little bit. And then I have a podcast, a poorly made police podcast, where you can find everywhere but YouTube. I should probably start uploading them. But
Yes.
Amazon, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. So
Yeah, play it in the background in your car. It's awesome.
I don't know. I'm amazed anybody listens to me.
I
It's hilarious though that I didn't show my face on anything forever, and I've been doing this for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Not a word from anybody.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, which is cool.
It's not a big deal. You
I
were
don't know
nervous
what's
about
so weird about it, man. But I'm going to keep wearing the mustache because tradition is tradition.
Tradition. Never mind. That's a Jewish musical plug.
Okay.
Fiddler on the Roof.
It's been a while. I've seen it. Yeah, it's been a while. You're right.
All right. Again, thank you everybody that
on the roof.
this thing goes different places. I don't know what's going to happen. That's the beautiful thing of it. It's live. It's real.
That's why it terrifies me. So I got to make sure I mind my P's and Q's a little bit. Just a little bit though.
It is what it is. I'm going to go. I'm going to hit the end stream button right now. Thank you everybody. Sincerely. We'll talk to you guys next week. I've hit it twice.